Hey, my name's Nick. Welcome to the Algarve Addicts video podcast. Now, every single Wednesday, we go beyond the beaches and brochures. We dig into the real Algarve by sharing the stories, struggles, and successes that shape life here through the eyes of the people that live here. And they've actually done it. They're experts, expats, entrepreneurs, and locals sharing unfiltered insights about relocating to and thriving in the Algarve. Let's get on with it. Hey Simone, it's so nice to see you again. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good, Nick. I'm happy to see you. I feel
Yeah.
like we've talked more than seen each other in person, which is the beauty of the internet.
Well, yeah, I saw you a couple of times when you moved to Lagos, but let's getting
Yes.
ahead of ourselves. Let me introduce you to everybody else. So you're Simone, and tell me a little bit about yourself. What's like your sort of intro? What's your life story?
Well, it's so funny because now I feel like that question with all of like the more deeper personal development work, I'm like, what am I? I think people might say, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an expat. I'm an American. I'm a mom. I am an adventurer and I am a community builder, kind of like yourself. And I'm really passionate about just trying to live my life, like enjoying my life, living the best of my life while I'm here. And Portugal has definitely been a really good spot to do that.
Excellent. I mean, it does sound very adventurous to relocate to a foreign country with a very young child.
Yeah, I know. I know. That was a while ago though now, because now she's 4.5 when
Well,
we moved. It
so can we
was
go
she was
back
yeah.
to that time and just think about where you were at before you came to Portugal and before you were thinking about coming to Portugal? Where were you at?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So I'm American, my husband's French, and we had left the United States at the very beginning of 2020, right before COVID. Like we were just like, you know what? Let's try the European life. And I lived in Paris, he's French, and we thought, okay, what's similar to where we'd lived? And we had lived in Santa Monica in Los Angeles. We're like, what's kind of a beach vibe? Gets us kind of just happiness. There's some good restaurants, just a good place to walk around. And we thought, okay, let's try the south of France first. So we were in the south of France for 2020, 2021. So like we had
Mm.
arrived in the beautiful Côte d'Azur
Sounds very
and
chic.
it was super chic. I would walk along just the Riviera and I would think to myself, like, oh my God, is this heaven? Like, it was so beautiful.
Wow.
And a month in, we started to like see the news like everybody else, and everything just started to kind of lock down. And the French lockdown was a little bit different. So we were in an Airbnb because we were still trying to figure out where to live and had found a home. And the lockdown was just a little bit, I think every country is a little bit different, but we were locked down. I had a daughter then during the
When you say
lockdown.
lockdown, you couldn't leave your apartment. Is that right?
We had these really weird, like you had to get a pass. I don't know what it was like in Portugal. You could only
Mm.
go 5 kilometers from where you were, and you had to like use an app in France. And then I think because of tourism, so that was, even during summer 2020, it was like they opened it up a little bit because I think they wanted tourism and
Oh.
tourist dollars to come, and then kind of shut it down. And then 2021, when my daughter was born, it was looser, but it was still pretty much you're in kind of this interesting confinement. But it didn't stress me out, Nick. I mean, we lived in a beautiful spot. We could still go for walks. I didn't
You
feel
never
like I
used the
got
beach.
yeah, yeah, we were
Oh,
able to sometimes use it. Now it feels kind of like a blur since we're doesn't
yeah,
it
because I
for
remember
you?
what it was like here. I wanted to go paddleboarding, and they'd like blocked off the beach, so you couldn't drive your
Um,
car close. And they put big rocks in the place, and they actually locked down the beaches sometimes because there was this weird thing that they thought that COVID could be transmitted through the water while you were surfing. And obviously now we know that that's bull, but still, nobody knew anything. And you're right, it was panic all over the world. It was crazy,
it was
wasn't
such
it?
panic. It was such panic. Yeah, but then, like I think 2021, things get a little bit smoother. You can go out. You kind of are a little bit more free. And my daughter was born in April. And then we started to kind of we could go on vacation. We went somewhere in France, flew somewhere in fall of 2021. And then in January, we came to Lisbon for a holiday. And I didn't realize that I was missing something when I was in France. I kind of knew, like I had built a community, we had fun, but there was, I think, something missing. And when we landed in Lisbon, it was like, wow, night and day. Like everybody was so friendly. They were smiling at our daughter. She was like, she wasn't even one. It was just this love and this energy that we didn't have in the south of France. And
Mhm.
I told my husband, I was like, babe, we have to move here. Like it was like, I didn't know much about Portugal at all. Like he had like
But he
at
was
all.
French, right? He was
Yeah,
French. So did he feel the same kind of love as well?
yeah. He
Uh,
felt the exact same vibe because we are coming from kind of Los Angeles, Santa Monica, where there's just movement and activity and a lot of people and open-mindedness. I think that was the biggest thing. Um, More open-mindedness. So we just felt this like openness that we hadn't felt in the south of France. And so I told him, I go, we have to move here. And he's the researcher in the family. And he was just like, okay, where do we want to live? Because we thought, and we had come to Ericeira. We had come to Ericeira and Lisbon, and we also went to Setúbal on that trip. And we are like, we loved Ericeira, but there's not that many people because it's 2022, kind of, it's pretty empty, but we were just like loving it. And we thought to ourselves, where would we want to live if we could live here? And we thought we can always come back to Ericeira in Lisbon because we've experienced it. We know that we like it, but shouldn't we just try something else? And so he started to doing all this research and he started to find your videos.
yeah.
Like he found your videos. And it's so funny because when I tell people the story, I think they think I don't know, because I tell it like this. And then we're like, we got to book a consult with this guy. He knows what's up. He knows all about this Algarve. Like we didn't know because we thought, oh, should we live in Portimao? But then there's all these other pretty things. And we had no idea where to live. And so we booked a consult with you when we were in
Yeah.
France.
I remember it well. Yeah. It was a long time ago. What about 3 years ago? More maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
was 2022
Right.
it was like spring of 2022. So a little bit more. Yeah.
Mm.
It's so wild. And then I remember, I don't know how much you remember from it, but I just remember you saying, like, based off of your lifestyle, I think you guys would really like Lagos. And
Yeah.
we didn't come visit. We just said, okay. And
Nick
because the
knows what he's
flight,
doing. Let's go to Lagos.
let's just go. Because we were kind of at the mentality, like, is there anything to lose? And, we moved in May. So in January, we went to Lisbon. Jan did the research. We talked to you. And then in May, I think it was like May 2nd, because it was right after my daughter's birthday. And then we got to meet you. We
Yeah, and I remember it was pretty sort of good weather. It was like
It
spring,
was
summery kind of weather. Yeah.
so lovely.
Mm.
And then we landed in Lagos and we just got an Airbnb. It's kind of similar thing that we had done in France. And we kind of convinced the guy to give us a longer term rental through the Airbnb, and he did. And we were there. And, you know, actually at the very beginning, I didn't like it. I don't know if I ever told you that.
You did, yeah. You
Oh,
said
did
you were
I?
struggling with it. Yeah, you did, yeah. And I was like, why though? Because it was
Yeah.
moving into summer, so it was getting busy, right?
So even though I lived in Los Angeles, I'm from Portland, Oregon. So
Oh,
green is so necessary, like trees and greenery and being able to go out into the forest. And we also, when we were in France, we didn't have a car, which again was something I was really happy about. And when we moved to Lagos, we rented a car and we were sitting in the town center. And so we didn't venture far. And I realized for me, freedom is like being able to go wherever I want easily is a big necessity. So at first it was like, I kind of felt trapped just being in the city. And so when we got a car, everything changed because we could drive
oh.
to Algeciras and Sagres. And really we kind of just hung out around the coastal areas more. And
Did you
then
find
if we
any
wanted,
forest? 'Cause in the
no.
valleys, there are a couple of little forests, but not many.
No, no, we really didn't. Well, my favorite beach along kind of past Algeciras is Eau de Sèche. Do you know that
Mm.
beach with
I'm
the
just about to
river?
go there and make another video. I can't wait. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is my favorite beach, I think, in the entire world.
But it's a
Because they've got
nudist beach.
not this one. I've never seen anybody nude. I did not. I've never seen a nudie there.
Because there's another little section there, which if you look out from on top of Odysseus on the left-hand side, there's
Oh,
a little
you're
like cove
right.
there. Apparently
Oh,
it's an
you're
official
right.
nude beach, and there's only about 4 in the Algarve or something.
Oh, wow. You know what? We never go to that part of the beach. You're right. You're totally right. Because I do remember like looking down, like, what are these people doing? They're naked. We would go over because my daughter was so young to the riverside. So we would jump. I loved like jumping in at the right where, the ocean was and then floating
Oh,
down
it's
and then
beautiful.
kind
Yeah,
of getting up.
it's
Yeah.
quite unique. That place is lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I love that. And just the view and like being able just to get a toasty, a glass of wine, the beautiful view. Oh, I just love it.
But how is it like from a community perspective? Because I think you're like a professional community builder, so you can
Yeah.
connect with people real quick, right? So did that
Yeah.
happen in Lagos or not really?
Well, absolutely. So I think like anything, when you move anywhere, you have to make it work for you, right? So it's just like,
Oh,
okay, so I was like, this is weird. I feel like I don't like it. I also was my daughter was just 1 year. So maybe also there are hormones related to just your decisions. And so we got a car, started to feel free. And then the winter is really different in Lagos than the summer. Then the green actually started to appear, right?
mm,
So there was like all of the green, like the cliffs, there was green around the cliffs, like everything was growing. There's beautiful flowers. So again, like I was like, oh, okay. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I love to meet other people because it just makes me feel happy. I love to have conversations about business, about growth. So I just casually started like this co-working thing, and I always love to support women, so this co-working thing for women. And so that started 2023. It grew into a bigger WhatsApp group and a bigger community where we did a lot of women's events for entrepreneurs in Lagos. And once I started to feel that I had a community,
mm.
that made me feel a lot better because that was the thing. I'd built community in the south of France, but it was based upon walking, which was one of my other
Okay,
loves. Like we would
nice.
just, it was called walk and talks. The idea first was to like learn French. But it was just to connect with people. And so for me, it's like the moment that I can connect with people on, on a weekly basis and have that unfortunately in my native tongue, right, which is English until I'm fluent in Portuguese, it just
Mm.
it just filled me up, and we had some really great times. We made some really great friends.
Because there's a bunch of really cool international people in Lagos, aren't
Yeah.
there? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great
There's
vibe.
It's such a great vibe because there's this digital nomad, which to me, I define digital nomad as like, no, I don't know if I'm going to buy a house here. I'm here. I'll come back. I don't know how strong I want my roots here, but it's going to be one of my places that I kind of frequent. And then I kind of call it like, more people like me that are more expats. So I'm going to try to find a place. I want to build friendships. Like I'm going to be here. Maybe I'll go away for a few months, but I'm going to be here. And so there's a lot of that. And there's amazing coffee shops. That was my other thing is like in France, there was not the kind of coffee shops that I love. And in Lagos, my God, I think there's like 4 or 5 that are really
Yeah,
top
really
notch,
great ones. Yeah, like
really
what's it,
great ones.
Twin Fin and the Coffee
Twin
Studio
Fins.
and Abigail's and
Yes.
all that lot.
Yes. Yeah. And then Everyday People, that new one that like opened
Yeah,
last
that's
year.
great, actually. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Yeah.
Been there for lunch. It was really nice.
Yeah. Super good.
So many cool spots. So,
Yeah.
what sort of stands out, and when did you start thinking that you couldn't really deal with Lagos, you wanted to move away from it? Actually, wait,
Well, yeah.
before we get there, you did this amazing thing, and you did a TEDx in Lagos,
Yeah.
right? How did
Yeah.
that roll?
It was
I mean,
amazing.
where did
Dude,
the
it
idea
was
come from? Yeah.
Well, it didn't come from me. It came from somebody in the community that I started. So this
Cool.
she's a photographer and a marketer. Her
She's
name's
been on our
Elena.
podcast. Elena.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, Elena. So
Yeah.
she knew. I think she had heard because I could just kind of create these events and people would come and people always had a great time at these events that I would do in Lagos. So she was like, oh, I think I need to talk to Simone. And so we met at Twin Fins. Her and I met at Twin Fins. And she's like, I got this really crazy idea. I want to do a TEDx. I was like, let's do it. Like, why not? Like, let's do it. And so she had the idea. I said, okay, I've got some skills here. Let me also connect with somebody else, which is one of my friends that works at heads up the entrepreneurial center in Lagos because I knew I didn't have enough local connections to, pass through some of the paperwork stuff. Or, like both her and I don't speak Portuguese. I was like, we need somebody local on the ground that can open some doors for us.
Is that
So,
Marta?
Marta, hmm
Cool.
yeah, who's coming to visit me today. I'm
Oh,
very
brilliant.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're chatting about getting her on the podcast as well, because they
Oh,
got a
she would
really
be great.
cool agency. Yeah. I mean, what do you call it? The Fundação de Empreendedor or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. She's worked with so many people in the region. It's just wild. Everybody knows that woman. And she knows
Cool.
everybody. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you guys
So
are
it,
chatting, right? And
yeah,
then,
so we were chatting and then we're like, let's do it. And the hardest thing I think with any event is finding the venue. Right? Because Elena's super creative. She's like, I want this idea. I was like, awesome. And then she was like, so we kind of, because TEDx is based upon this idea. And I'm curious, Nick, if you had to do a TEDx, what you would do, because you have to have one idea really worth spreading. Like, I don't know what my TEDx would be. Like, I'm still working on it. It's like an idea that you really haven't talked about, that you really want to share, that you could go really deep in
mm,
and do you know what yours would be?
I don't know. Now you put me on the spot. It's like,
Oh,
because that's the tagline, isn't it? TEDx, ideas worth spreading. I think
yes.
I would definitely do it something about, because it was a struggle of mine personally,
Mm-hmm.
living in Portugal, trying to recreate my digital work style, within
Mm,
an English speaking environment, and trying to create a small global business on
yeah.
my own,
Yeah.
a digital business. And I think it would definitely be around, sort of, small digital businesses, and trying to inspire
Yeah.
people, and the right tools and the right people to speak to, no matter where you are in the world, which is,
Yes.
um, something that I've done from the Algarve, because I wasn't
Yeah.
instantly. I couldn't talk Portuguese when I first arrived, and it's hard to just integrate. You can't get a job if you can't speak the language. So
I
it was out
know.
of necessity. I just built my own digital business.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, because you want to have something that inspires people. And so the whole idea was like, how do we get something that inspires people? It leaves them thinking. And we were like, because you want to, like, you go to this TEDx event. They're huge. So we had done, like, I had been to one in Portland. Elena had been to a few. She had organized one before as well. And so we went to the one in Porto. Have you been to this one?
No, I haven't. No, I
Dude,
haven't
it's
ever
it's
been to a TEDx ever.
oh my God. Well, next year you have to come. We're doing one again.
I love that.
But they're like, we're kind of like groupies. Like you're passionate. Everybody's a volunteer. None of us get paid. We can't make money. Like it is all not for profit. I mean, people definitely pay prices for the experience of it, but it all goes back into making sure that we can run it next year. And it's just, so the concept is, can you get you have a theme each year, you're going to have a theme. So this last year we had the theme of co-creating a limitless future, and we
Co-creating a
want
what? Sorry.
a limitless future.
All right.
Right, which is really powerful. Is like, what does that even mean, co-creation, and what
Yeah,
is
and
a
it's
limitless
very
future?
broad as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And so we had these different tracks. So we had, I think, 16 or 17 speakers. It was a full day event. Some of the best feedback that we heard at the end was like, how did you guys bring this to the Algarve? I've never been to an event like this that has, that is of this type of caliber, because we had some incredible speakers.
Mm.
And so it was, because it's not, I think that's the cool thing, is like we were kind of the facilitators of it, but it was the speakers and the co-creation of actually all of their talks into a journey for the people that were there. And so that was, I think, the best part. It was so lovely.
But it sounds amazing, because
Yeah.
you're kind of talking about abundance and the future of just sharing things and collaborating. Whereas traditionally, as far as my personal opinion, or not opinion, like experience in the Algarve with business, with small businesses,
Yeah.
everybody's very like, very protective and very competitive,
Hmm.
and they don't want to share anything. And I think it's so
Yeah.
beautiful to be able to try and introduce that kind of mentality here, which is lovely. So
Exactly. Yeah, and it
how
was
did it
lovely
go?
because it went so well, and we had, I mean, everything, we had a few talks in Portuguese. So we had a very famous entrepreneur, Paulo de Vilhena, who does all of his stuff in Portuguese. So he did his in Portuguese, and then a few others. But then we had, some very well-known people that are Portuguese, that spoke in English. We had translators. So we had
Mm.
thought about everything. So it was fantastic. I couldn't imagine it going any better. Next year's theme is transformation or metamorphosis. So we're
Oh,
in the planning phases of it right now. And what's pretty cool is they have restrictions depending on the type of license that you have. And so if you've gone to a TED event, so this is a TEDx, so they're independently organized, all volunteer, but there's TED Talks as well, which are to go. It's like $10,000. It could be $10,000 to go to some of them as a one ticket. Some
wow.
of them are a little bit more affordable. So Elena is going to one in Austria, all about AI this year. And because she's going to go to that one, we'll be able to have more people at our event. So you can have up to 1,000 people at. So this one we were limited in the amount of people that we could have based off on our license. So it's pretty cool. And they're very TED itself is very involved in the process. So we had all the speakers, then they have to get vetted. The videos have to go to, the TED organization, which will then upload them to their YouTube, which, some of our guy, like I don't know, more than 100,000 views for one of our
Wow.
talks.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So I feel very, very proud. I think it impacted so many people, inspired so many people, and that's the whole goal.
And how was it organizing the actual event with local authorities and things like that? Was it really difficult? Because I can imagine it could have been a bit of a struggle at times.
We thank goodness that Marta was on the team because she helped open the doors to getting things through the local officials. Because had it not been, I don't think it would have been possible to even get a
Wow.
meeting with some of these officials. Like, they're like, Simone, who are you? Like, I don't know. Like, everyone speaks English, and all of our meetings were in English, but showing some respect in Portuguese and all that kind of stuff. So I just think it would have been a lot harder. Everything takes time, which, and decisions. And when you're involving more people, things take a little bit longer. And I'd
Wow.
say that's the one thing versus like if we had done this event in the US, okay, let's find a venue. Okay, we'll put the down pause. It could have been all like, let's just fund this ourselves. But it was different. But
Yeah, because there's a
actually, I
different way of
enjoyed
working.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then what I realized and what was really cool is that Lagos is such a special city, and I actually had no idea. Then you and I talked about it kind of offline, just about how many like voyages went out of Lagos and how
Yeah, the
many like
historical perspective is
adventures. It's
amazing. Yeah.
wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
So we got to talk to a historian, like we got to learn a lot and really get involved with people that are watching their city transform because Lagos is transforming. It's not what it used to be, and that's great, but it isn't. And so it was interesting because a lot of conversations did come up about how do you preserve culture? How do you keep culture? And that was actually one of the reasons that we wanted to have talks in English and Portuguese is to also conserve the Portuguese language. So it
But
was
that
fast. It
sounds
was, yeah,
sorry, that sounds fascinating because obviously the next one's going to be about transformation, right?
yeah,
And you can obviously include that whole transformation that the entire country's going through as well. I mean, Portugal has just been swamped
I
by
know.
tourism over the last 10 years. And classic case, so yesterday I was in this beautiful little village called Carença, which is just north of Lolé,
Mm,
and it overlooks a brand new $1 million resort, like $300 million resort with a golf course and everything. It's
wow.
almost like a neighboring village because it's got the same amount of people or more people. And it's like that's the chance. That's what you're dealing with. You've got like the new and the old, and there's you're right. How to preserve the culture? That's a really interesting question, and how to integrate all the foreigners as well. I think that's a very
Yeah.
important thing as well, which is people need to integrate when they come here, and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
really tough.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
even today, I was just talking to somebody and dropping off my daughter at her school, and they said, one of the things they don't live in Lisbon, they used to, that I noticed in Lisbon, and she was there during COVID. She's like, it felt like it was Portuguese, a group, and then non-Portuguese. And she said, and she was mentioning that because she lives in the area, she's like, it doesn't feel that way here. And it's interesting because when I was in Lagos, like one of my friends, like is Portuguese, but I don't have many friends that are Portuguese. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are because you see so much more in the Algarve. You've been here for a long time. In the Algarve, is it how do you think it's Portuguese and non-Portuguese integrating together or is it more siloed? Like what have you seen?
Well, I think it depends on your personal circumstances because my wife's Portuguese, my daughter's Portuguese, so
Yeah.
we have lots of Portuguese friends, right? And it's been and before I could speak Portuguese fluently, it's been really difficult for me to like. I would be at dinner parties when everyone's speaking Portuguese, and I just managed to catch up with the conversation, then poof, they're off to another topic. So
Yeah.
that was quite a story. I mean, the language is the biggest thing, and I think that's, if anybody wants to integrate properly, which I hope most people do, the language is your first port of call. And if you can
Yeah.
try and get around that, otherwise it's really hard to integrate. But I do think that yes, everybody, there are pockets of foreigners, and people stick to the people that they know and like, and it's not just the foreigners versus the Portuguese. It's like the
Hmm.
Germans and the Dutch and the Americans. They
Yeah.
all stick together. And they all come over here and they chat to me in the beginning and they say, yeah, I don't want to be with any other British. I don't want to be with any other Americans. And then obviously, because it's comforting to know people
Yeah.
from where you come from, you do gravitate towards your people. Um,
Yeah, you do.
but it's important for us to push outside that and you're right, just to try and interact with other communities. Well, another
Yeah.
interesting thing in the Algarve is that there's local Algarvians, and a lot of
Hmm.
people from the north of Portugal have relocated down, or semigrated, as they talk about. They haven't emigrated; they've semigrated from the north down to the
Oh,
south.
I love that. I love
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
was it for why? Is it because of the weather, or is there another reason that they're semigrating?
Well, I mean, everybody has their own different reasons, but I think some
Mm,
people just want to try a new life and make a change. And it's obviously a soft landing because it's the same language down here. It's the
yeah,
same country. It's easy.
yeah,
So they just want to change their life and do something different. And I think that might be an idea. And people want to live a better life because obviously down here in the Algarve, you
yeah.
can walk on the beach. The weather is so good that you can do all kinds of things all the way throughout the year. So I
Yes,
think it's a combination of that.
yeah.
But now, tell me about, why did you leave Lagos? Was it just you're bored, you're tired, or did you just hate it?
No, none of those. I mean, we bought a place. We actually so May we moved just to show you how much we're like, no, this makes sense. And I think June, end of June, we put an offer for an apartment and we bought an apartment. Like literally in a month. Even though I told you I didn't like it, right? So we knew that
Oh,
there
in
was like
Lagos.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, so one thing is that I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in Madrid, I've lived in Paris. I love there's an identity of myself that I'm a big city girl. I left a small town to be in a big city. And I think that could have been one of the reasons why I wasn't such a big fan of Nice or the Côte d'Azur. I was maybe in just too small of a town. And I also have recognized being in Portugal that I really love being in nature and I love the kind of just the chill vibe. Like couldn't believe how much kind of spiritual and like personal growth I went through even in Lagos. So I
Mm.
also love that. And so it's been this interesting feeling of, you know, how do I have those two? And Lisbon, I don't actually know how many people live in Lisbon, but I know that I can walk around the streets and be like,
0.85 million.
how many?
In the greater Lisbon area, like north and south of the river, it's
Yeah.
like 2.85 million people.
Okay, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like, what could I do? How could I help more people there? And so that's kind of the feeling that I just had. I was like, there's something, I don't know exactly what it is, that just wants me to be a little bit closer to Lisbon, not in Lisbon, kind of closer. Could I do some workshops? I don't know. I'm kind of just listening to this. And I thought, again, we own our place. This is an experiment. I told everybody, you know what? It's just 12 months. We signed a 12-month lease. That's it. Who knows what it's going to be? But it was more to see what else is out there and to see what could I do in Lisbon? Like if there's okay, cool. We did a TEDx in Lagos. What could I do in Lisbon? What else is there to kind of do or to play around with? So it's more just about just seeing a little bit about that. Because yeah, when I think about it, I'm like, oh, but I have all these friends and I had a routine and I have favorite coffee shops and all of that.
And you have
And
to
now
start all over again.
and we're starting it all over again. I don't have any, actually, I do have one friend here that I met online, which was amazing. But my daughter's going to new school. So all of these kind of new things, but it's kind of, I don't know. I'm okay with that for now. But it was just that.
Just for clarity, how many months are you
Yeah.
into your 12 months?
Well, we signed the lease. We started the lease in April, actually, but then we moved right after TEDx in May, and then I was gone in the US for the whole summer. So my
Um,
husband's been here since May, and we've just been here because it's September that we're recording this for like 3 weeks. So
yeah.
I feel like I'm new, and he's been here for a few months.
Oh,
So
cool. So you're
not
still in that excitement phase, discovering everything, checking it out.
yeah, Yeah, and then also checking out just a little bit up north too, like what's Peniche like, or the beaches above there, and just exploring because there's a lot to explore. There's a big forest around here in Mafra, which I
Mm.
really love. We were just like walking around the forest yesterday. We saw so many deer, wild boar. It was very
You
nice.
saw some wild boar. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
really, really cool. So, just experiencing this. Now, the water is definitely different than in the Algarve.
yeah.
There's a lot of wind. We're like, what are the winters going to be like? Right? We're kind of preparing ourselves for like, we don't know. So let's just be
Mm.
open minded about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's always obviously going to be rainier and harder and more stormy up there because it's right on the western. Cabo de Roca
Yeah.
is the westernmost point of the whole of Europe, so it gets all the Atlantic storms. But it's
Mm,
exciting and fun. You light a fire,
yes.
hey, why not? As long as you don't have leaks.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
Excellent. So, you've experienced a lot of Portugal, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of people are looking at Portugal and thinking about
Hmm.
Portugal and moving to Portugal. Where do you have any words of wisdom for them? Because you've done it all.
I think the first word of wisdom is like, don't let fear hold you back.
Mm,
Just don't. I think that was the one thing that we haven't done is we were like, let's do it, let's try. And there was I've never regretted anything. And even when we first moved here in Sarah, I told my husband, I'm so glad we're here, right? So just do it. Like, what is the worst thing that can happen if you do this? There's not that you can always go back home. I mean, obviously make sure that you've got your financial ducks in a row, all of the kind of the admin, all of that stuff, but don't let fear hold you back for what could be something that is like actually what your soul is calling you for. That's number 1. And then keeping an open mind about everything. This is new. I mean, I've lived and worked in more than 40 countries, so change is not
40.
any. Yeah, 40. Like my
Wow.
old job in corporate was to go try, like I would be based places. I was an auditor. It's not like I was like a Marine or anything, but like I would be based in places. It sounded like I wish it maybe was a little bit more exciting, and I'd be there for a month and you have to learn about the culture and you got to get excited. And like the way that you've done things in your hometown, well, you're probably wanting to leave because you want something new. So being open minded and accepting that things are going to be a little bit different, but that's kind of cool. And what can you learn from it? Also is, I would say, my second bit of information. And then, and last is give yourself time. Like I said, I didn't like Lagos at first. And now I'm like, no, but I love it. Right. And so you have to give yourself time to anything new because what happens is that our ego is going to get in the way. Oh my God, this is uncomfortable. I don't like it. Do you really not like it? Or is there something else maybe that, you can investigate or explore a little bit more?
Mm,
Yeah.
that's great advice.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have the advice about the visas because I'm also a European citizen, even though I'm
Okay, well,
American.
that's so handy. Like you've
It's
just
very
wiped
handy.
out all that red tape
Yeah.
before, because I
Yeah.
think that leaves a bit of a sour taste in some people's mouths when they have
Yeah.
a problem. Because generally with visas,
Mhm.
if you tick all the right boxes, it's a pretty seamless process.
Mhm.
Um, and it just takes a bit of time and you can get through it. But if
Yeah.
you have some little thing which is out of whack, you
Hmm.
could put you all the way into a loop, and you can go back and take forever. It's like I suppose that's bureaucracy the world over.
Bureaucracy. Yeah.
But
Yeah. And that's hard. I would just say maintain your patience.
yeah. But
Yeah.
you've got to have a lot of patience because
I
I
know.
was just chatting to an editor that we may be hiring yesterday, and she has been waiting because she's actually Portuguese, right? And
Uh-huh.
she's South African Portuguese, but she didn't have all her IDs and stuff, so she had to wait 7 years before she could get her citizenship and come here. So there was a lot of
Wow.
hassles with that,
Wow. Oh my
So
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
not
also,
it's not 7 years for everybody, obviously. I mean,
no.
we have clients who went through the whole process in 6 months from get go to living here, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So
Exactly,
depends on you.
exactly. Yeah, it really depends, and I'm curious though, like, for the gal that had to wait for 7 years, was she able to leave the country? Because to me, it's like, if you can't leave the country because of a visa thing, that's maybe where it's more stressful. Was she
Yeah,
still able
no,
to
she
leave?
hadn't sorted anything out. She was still in South Africa, so she hadn't moved here
Oh.
yet. She was
Mm.
waiting to get it all organized, and then she came over. So now she's fine, but it's no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
But another interesting topic, which seems to be coming up a lot these days, maybe it's just
Hmm.
me, I don't know, maybe I'm more sensitive towards it, but do you feel any sort of anti-foreigner sentiment in Portugal?
Well, that's actually really funny. Yeah, I think so. And I'm going to say, let me just say why I took the pause. When we first came to Ericeira in 2022, there was a coffee shop that was open and they only spoke English. And they had a sign, they're not open anymore. And they had a sign that said, "We don't tolerate xenophobia." And I was like, I don't know. I was just like, that's a little weird. Okay, I don't know what to fully think about this. I didn't form an opinion on it. They're no longer here. And then I realized, and I started getting in these Facebook groups, that there is this tension between foreigners and expats. And I can understand why. I mean, if you look at expats have infused a lot of more money and capital and buying more real estate, making prices go up, which is actually beneficial if you own a house and you want to sell a house, if you are Portuguese, but really builds a constraint later on. What do you do with that money? Or if you're in university and you are working here and you have, a minimum wage job or a little bit more, and you see these prices that have completely skyrocketed, how could you have the dream of actually wanting to own a home or do all those things? So it feels that there is a stew of things that are happening here, but I think they're happening in every country. They're happening in the United States, they're happening in France, right? This
Mm.
is not something unique here, but I can understand how there could be that type of tension. And that's really hard. Yeah.
It is hard, and I think it's also and it's being whipped up by the far right here, and that's sort of
Oh,
like
is it?
fertile ground for them, and they're really
Mm,
taking advantage of it, and they're making it
mm,
worse, and they're gaining votes from it. But obviously, I don't want to get too political here but I think
yeah,
it is a political hot potato,
it
and people are
is.
discussing it more and more. We're getting a couple of more sort of comments more and more, like stupid, horrible comments, and I actually
Oh,
this guy commented on a podcast just like this actually, and he commented on it. We had made a reel from it and stuck it on Instagram, and he commented saying, "Somebody go home" or something like that. Like
yeah, yeah,
and I feel terrible because it would be directed at you, for example, and they
mhm,
would say, "American, go home."
yeah,
And I actually got in touch with him and I said, "Hey, man, I'd love to hear your point of view. Why don't
yeah,
you come on the podcast?" And then he was very apologetic and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I was in a bad mood." And I said, "Well, you can't post stuff like that when you're in a bad mood."
yeah,
And people, these people just don't realize you can't just sit on your keyboard and type out these terrible
yeah.
things.
No,
Uh,
I know.
so, yeah,
And I think
it's sad.
I mean, at the end, it's really rooted in fear. All politics is just like, let me exploit the fear that's happening and the injustices that people see, which is unfortunate because there are injustices. I don't know how to solve the problem that exists right now. The problems, it's interesting because it's existing in every country in a different way, but it's a similar problem. So I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't know. Are there any solutions that you've thought
Well,
of
I
or
think
that
the
people are
government's doing it
talking
really.
about?
I mean, you're right. There's not really an instant. There's never an easy solution to any of this stuff because it is just so complex. You're right, and there's
It
so many different.
is.
You got 10 million
Yeah.
or 11 million different opinions, so
Yeah.
it's hard in Portugal. Um, but I think that the government are sort of slightly tightening up on immigration, and I
Mhm.
think that's probably a good thing.
Yep.
Um, and just to try and sort of keep people a little bit more happy about it. But the thing is, when when you actually realize the benefit that foreign people bring to the country, it's great.
Mhm.
And you get some good
Yeah.
foreigners and you get some bad foreigners. Like you get some good locals and you get some bad locals. So it's a big melting pot. But yeah,
It is a
we're
big
not going to
melting
solve it
pot.
right here, right now, are we?
No, 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 we're not. No, we're not. And I always try. I'm like, what can we do? But I think for me, it's like, how do you invest in Portuguese things as somebody that lives here? How do you, if you are in entrepreneurship, do something local if you can? I mean, obviously, a lot of these people have come that have clients that are in the United States or wherever they're from. But how do you continue to give back and infuse the economy? I think is the easiest actionable
Yeah.
thing somebody could do.
And I think the best thing that we all can do as foreigners in Portugal is try and integrate more and try and
Yes.
understand more about Portuguese culture, try and understand more about the language, try and learn the language more, and really try and integrate and socialize more with locals. And I think that helps everybody because
Yeah.
knowing people is it's the key. You know what I mean? If you're a
Yeah.
foreigner, no one knows you, then they're suspicious of you. But if they know
Yeah.
you, then it helps.
Yeah. And also, I love that you invited him on the podcast and you had that conversation. So I also think that, and hope, and not with like, you wanted to know. And so being curious about these things without getting upset about them, it's definitely taking the high road. So you have to practice, on your own personal growth, but really important.
Because you're right. I mean, everybody's got an opinion, and there are some real
Yeah.
problems out there, and people
Yeah.
experiencing real pain.
Yeah.
So it is good to hear their thing. So, yeah, if there's any disgruntled Portuguese out there, I'd love to hear you guys, man. Let's get on this chat. As long as we can keep it civil and polite, it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Simone, thank you so much. It's really been wonderful chatting to
Yes,
you again,
Nick.
and really appreciate hearing your story and all your words of advice and things. So I hope people can learn a lot from your words. So thank you.
Thank you. I loved being on, and thank you for making your YouTube channel because I don't know where I would be if my husband hadn't found it. So thank you for
Oh,
doing
you're
what you're
too
doing.
kind.
No, but it's the truth. I really have no idea where we would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you
You're
soon.
welcome. Thank you.